Cash Color Cannabis, a high level of conversation on LivehiphopDaily.tv. And I have my special guest in the building, Andrew. How you doing today?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. We had actually a great conversation prior to the actual recording. So hopefully we can keep the conversation going.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. For those who don't know, please introduce yourself. Let us know what you do.
All right. So my name is Andrew Weisman. I am the Chief Sales Officer for a company called Releaf Genetics based out of Atlanta, Georgia, or Sandy Springs to be specific.
Yeah.
Our parent company is Capstone Healthcare. So primarily what we do is genetics.
Okay.
Telling patients how do they metabolize the most commonly prescribed drugs.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I definitely want to get into that a little bit more. But we're here today to talk about the Releaf Summit.
Okay.
And how that came about and the importance of it coming to Atlanta. Let me give a little backstory. When I first heard about the Releaf Summit, it was through Instagram. And I remember clicking on the post because I wanted to know some more about it. And then I get a phone call from you immediately. I was like, okay, he works quick. He works quick.
Yep.
And you gave me a great sell on the event. And I'm a hard person to sell, to be completely honest with you. And I know I've seen a lot of events try to come through the Atlanta area. So a part of me was a tad bit skeptical, but I was actually very interested because I thought you sounded extremely passionate and extremely honest about the conversation. So talk to us about how Releaf Summit came to be. Like, how did the concept go from being, how did it go from being a concept to an actual thing?
Sure. So let's maybe back up. How did Releaf Genetics come about? Maybe is a better question. It's all an amalgamation of the same thing. Came about at the same time. So my CEO had contacted me 7 months ago, and we'd worked together in the lab space probably 12 years, almost 13 years together. He said, "What do you know about cannabis? Or what do you know about marijuana?" I'm like, "Nothing, man. It's the devil's lettuce." I mean, I grew up in a strong Southern home. I played multiple sports through high school and college. Went directly from there into the military for 8 years. So I just never was really around it, to be honest with you. And there was that stigma that followed it, and still today, I think, and that's what we're kind of breaking down is. So I told him I don't know anything about it, and he said, "Well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go educate yourself. I'll pay your trip, but I want you to go on the weekends while you're doing your other job and try to figure it out." I'm like, "Okay." So I went all over the U.S., went all to Canada, went to Israel, and really what I decided figured out is what's not working in some places and what is working, and bring that back here. And so that's how Releaf Genetics came about. To educate, really our first step was to educate for people just like myself. How do we break down the stigma of cannabis, where it's medical cannabis or recreational cannabis? And so for me, I mean, this is just a personal story. I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife. I've got a 9-year-old and 11-year-old. And again, with the devil's lettuce background, I had to be able to look at my kids in the eye and tell them with confidence what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I did that. I learned that when you start speaking to people, whether it's themselves, their children, more importantly, that medical cannabis has changed or cannabis has changed their life, whether you're talking about smoking it, whether you're talking about tinctures, edibles, whatever it is. I mean, there is value there. And I think, to me, what our responsibility is to kind of, as stewards of this space, whether you're at a dispensary, whether you're a grower, whether you're someone that does genetics, we owe it to the patients, because like people going right now and buying, marijuana down in the corner, you don't know where that marijuana came from. Hemp and cannabis, cannabis in general, has this unique ability to pull heavy metals and things out of the ground that most other plants can't. So depending on what your disease state or illness is, you may be exacerbating the situation by smoking something where you don't know where it came from.
And that's something that most people don't know.
Yeah.
Is the power of the plant, especially when it's in its growing phase, what it could actually draw into itself. So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I speak to people often about how you should not just buy weed willy-nilly off the street, just like you shouldn't buy CBD from a gas station.
That is correct.
That is correct. Let's know what we're buying.
Yeah. No, I and you see that a lot. I was in North Carolina probably about 4 months ago, and saw a CBD kind of product sitting there, and it doesn't even have how much CBD's in it. It doesn't say where it's from. There's no QR code to see where it was tested from. That's a big part of what we do. I mean, where my background was in healthcare is it's cancer, it's not. I mean, that's how serious it is. And so we bring that same seriousness over to the medical cannabis space. And I keep referencing medical cannabis because in Georgia, that's what we've, bill passed into law right now.
That's what we have. And honestly, I look at cannabis as medical cannabis. Yep. Like, I don't really believe the recreational exists. You know, it's all for a purpose that's medicinal in one way or another, man. So it's great that you actually came to that epiphany on your own.
Yeah.
So again, speaking about the company, so your role in the company is what?
Chief Sales Officer.
Chief Sales Officer.
Really to get the word out right now and put on this conference, to be honest with you. I mean, it's taken up an enormous amount of my time. We've partnered with another genetics company, and we've created, and we're going to be launching this, which is it's called PGX or pharmacogenetics, but for cannabis. Okay. How do people metabolize cannabinoids? Yes. And a lot of people, and again, I am the first to admit, 6-7 months ago, didn't know the difference between indica, sativa, what it was used for, how to use it, the feeling, the euphoric feeling, if you want the official term. I didn't know any of that, and so I had to speak to people. Now, as I shared a video with you, my dad's side of the family, they know marijuana really, really well.
Yes, they do.
And
yes,
so those were actually some of the first people I called. I'm like, you can tell me what you know, the good, bad, and different about marijuana, and told them about the genetic testing. My brother's first words were, "Well, I'm not going to do that. I smoke weed to get high." I'm like, all right, you are not going to be one of my candidates. But again, I've ran across or ran into so many people where cannabis has changed their lives or someone they know's lives, and I mean it's amazing. I recommend watching Weed the People. Probably been my best documentary.
Oh yeah, Weed the People is pretty good.
Phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, it was one of the best ones, and I think it destigmatizes cannabis. Yeah. I mean, it really, and again, we talked earlier. We've got to back up 70 years of mindset and get back to where we were in 1930, and prior to where cannabis was an option for everybody. Yeah. No matter what your background is, a lot of people think the holy oil or the anointing oil is CBD oil.
Oh, a part of me thinks a lot of references out of the Bible might be weed.
Yep.
A lot of them might actually be weed if we really think about it like that. Well, you're doing a good job as far as promoting this event. You're doing a great job selling the brand itself. Yep. Let's speak about the event a little bit. Relief Summit.
Yep.
What should event goers expect on September 27th when they get there?
So it's the night of the 27th, just to be clear, is that's where we're going to have the lawmaker, people that help pass it into law.
Okay, so the actual event will be the 28th.
28th,
okay,
correct.
I'm sorry about that.
Yep. And so the 28th itself, what we did in Georgia, and again, we hope this summit gets bigger and bigger over time, and we are not professional summit or conference putter honors, but what we do want to do is we want to provide education here in the state. And so the way the laws are written right now, you could and have been able to get access to a medical card, but you can't get any product legally.
No.
Like I can tell you, the fact is we're on two people's application right now as a laboratory. They're still accepting applications. They haven't created, I think you call it the committee or the...
No. Stuff moves at a snail pace.
Yeah. So, but the way it's written is, it's my understanding, it's like roughly the second week or the third week of January, you have to have your application in play. And then they're going to decide who's going to get one of those 6 coveted licenses. 4 of them are going to be 50,000 square foot, 2 are going to be 100,000 square foot. So realistically, the way I look at it, you're not going to have a legal product in the state of Georgia till Q4 of next year. I mean, it's just no two ways about it.
There's no, and I agree with you, because again, things move at a snail's pace here. And like you had mentioned, they probably have piles of patients ready to go. They probably have actual doctors ready to work. You just haven't decided how you're going to make money on this yet, so we're not moving that quick.
I think at least by Georgia, there's a website. I don't know if you want to plug the website, but there's a website out there. It's pretty simple to find. Where it lists, I think right now you've got 28 recommenders. I know that's not all inclusive, but I don't know how many there are. 28 or 29 is what I've reached out to. But it's not enough. I mean, you're going to have cannabis deserts, if you will, in certain parts of the state, and then you got a product issue right now. I just received a text message a minute ago from a physician here in town saying, I'm a recommender by the state, by Georgia Department of Health. I've got patients, but where do I tell them to go get product at? Because Georgia, some states do, but Georgia doesn't have reciprocity, meaning that if you're a card holder in Georgia, you can't take your card to Florida and go get product. No. So, again, let's say you were a card holder from 3 years ago. What are you doing? I mean, and I don't mean that in a negative against you as the person, but I'm like, it's great you got a card, but the state's not helping you out in that sense.
And there's really not a lot of places really to even get let's say CBD or even hemp. Like outside of Georgia Hemp Company, I am seeing other brick and mortar companies pop up. But again, it's still slow and it's still spotty. And you say we're going to start seeing deserts of this stuff eventually. Well, actually, very shortly before we see any actual real progress.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of probably the Atlanta Metro, I mean, you go north or south, 30, 40 minutes, you're going to be pretty tough. And then that's going to force a patient or a potential patient to go online and get a product or go buy it at a gas station because they don't know. They don't know. You don't know what you don't know as a patient. I mean, that's the reality.
Or you go back to your good old-fashioned black market and you realize that, and that's a whole nother conversation where you're realizing there was a lot of people who are working this illegally who really probably knew as much as bud tenders, as much as people who run these businesses, and you can't go to them at all. You can't even go nowhere close to them right now. So the Relief Summit, it has a string of great speakers. I'm actually one of them. You have a string of great speakers. Speak to us about some of the speakers and some of the topics that will be touched on during the 28th.
Sure. So we broke up the summit into kind of three areas. The first of them be clinical, and again, that's for the recommenders in the state, and either people. It's one of two. It's either recommenders in the state, or there's a lot of people that want to be a recommender, but just again demystifying the plan itself and not knowing what's going on. So that's one of the goals, is to help educate those recommenders or potential recommenders. The second part is the legal aspect. As a practitioner, how am I going to protect my practice? In most states where medical cannabis is an option, there's a course. Georgia does not have a course, but that course is all about protecting your practice. It's not about treating patients. And so, like for me, I'm a veteran. We're heavily involved with veteran organizations. Our company is veteran-owned. So I look at it, I'm pragmatic. If a veteran that's dealing with, let's just say, PTSD is coming in a lot of cases, they're looking at cannabis as a last line of therapy, when a lot of cases it should be the first line of therapy. But they're coming into a recommender and saying, can you help me? And the reality is that recommender, and it's not a knock on recommenders, if you don't have experience, you don't have experience. So how are you going to treat that patient? And I mean, it's a fact. Everybody knows the number. 21.2 veterans, kill themselves a day, and a lot of that's due to PTSD and and stress and all the other things that go along with seeing and doing things that we weren't designed to do as a human.
And there's levels of that too, because I feel like that's something we watch and well, we're going to slowly have to deal with when you deal with professional football players, UFC fighters, professional wrestlers, that you're going to start seeing a lot of PTSD, a lot of people who are suffering from just a lot of head injuries that really have been pumping all kind of pills down their throats. Should probably be looking towards CBD, should probably be looking towards medical grade cannabis, things like that, in order to help them get off some of those medicines and help their pain situation. Well,
so you mentioned them earlier, Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I haven't met Roz, but I've met Eric Range.
Okay, Eric's another good one, man.
Great guy. So his wife's also going to be one of the speakers, Tamika. So she's going to be covering kind of the legal aspect of that.
And Tamika is part of the Cash Color Cannabis family. She was one of our interviews a while ago, like right when they first started the program at FAMU, because I was very interested in the fact that teaching cannabis law and policy at a HBCU. I thought that was an amazing story. And she's one of the lead. She's one of the lead people, one of the educators over there.
So we've got legal, the legality of it. We've got the clinical side, and then we've got the kind of the entrepreneurial side. But I think the other two all fit into that because cannabis is new in the state of Georgia. Everybody's an entrepreneur, whether you're a physician, whether you're a dispensary, CBD.
Or whether you're one of those guys who just kind of sitting on the sidelines and waiting to figure out how to get involved.
You better hurry up. I mean, that's the only thing I can tell you. If that's the case, you better hurry up because people are coming in from out of state and taking up your business. I mean, that's the reality.
And one of the main speakers you have, the keynote speaker actually, is Eva Marcel. How did Eva Marcel get involved with the event, and what is she doing? I know one of the things she'll be doing will be rolling out her own CBD line.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I was with the CEO at the time and give you a play-by-play, and his wife's best friend is Eva, and they were down in Florida together, and he said, a huge cannabis advocate. Do I know anyone that's in the CBD space, in the hemp space? And I said, I do. And he said, let's talk to her. And so we started talking. Her philosophy is natural, all natural, for everything that she tries to do. And so, I started networking with some people that I knew. We created some special formulations just for her, and in a lot of cases, I can't release too much of it, but a lot of the products are specifically designed for women of color, and not just CBD oil. But so we kind of worked with her, creating some branding, and so that we thought it would be a great jump-off point. So the summit is going to be at the W Midtown Hotel on the 28th. That evening is going to to be her launch party upstairs, which is I think they call it the elevation room. It's a 310-degree view of the city. So
that's going to be a nice rollout for her.
Yeah, so we're really excited about it. I think creating a product for her and her fan base and her followers, which is I think cumulatively is 12 million.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Oh, she's been rolling since America's Next Top Model. Like, she has fans.
Yep.
like she definitely has fans. But she's one of the few speakers. Like I said, there's going to be a list of amazing speakers that's going to be coming down. Who are some of the other speakers that's going to be speaking?
So we got Dr. Sasha No. She's a practicing family practitioner out of Apollo, Florida. She is also done one of a handful of people in the country who's done her PhD in the endocannabinoid system. You've got Dr. Abadili. Abadili's a double-boarded surgeon up in upstate New York that's been using medical cannabis to treat gastric cancers for some time. You've got Dr. Wayback. He's a physician that goes, basically you call him down in Florida, concierge physician, and comes and treats patients that maybe can't get to a dispensary, and he'll diagnose them, help them get the card. Again, we got some business owners. We've got Hope Weisman. I know she's got a big following here in town.
Hope's Spelman graduate. Hope's coming.
Yep. So she's going to be involved with it. We've got a pretty good group. I mean, I was heavily involved in putting this group together because again, it's all about demystifying and educating both practitioners, potential recommenders, and then the public themselves.
Is anybody you're looking forward to seeing in particular? Aside from me, because I know I'm speaking to.
So we locally here, we've got a lot of good speakers, to be honest with them. Yourself, we've got Stanley coming, the Canamedic.
Oh, Stanley's going to be a great conversation.
Yep.
Stanley's going to be a great conversation.
So,
y'all going to have to stop Stanley from talking.
Yeah, I mean, but he's passionate about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's my thing, too. I mean, he is very passionate about it. And again, I've only run across a handful of people in my life that I walk away from and saying, God, I believe in humanity again.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those good guys. So, we're glad to have him involved with it. I mean, all the physicians are great. I think Dr. Sasha No brings something that nobody else has probably heard.
Yeah. So what's the reception been like for the event so far, especially from event goers? I know you probably had a ton of looky-loos looking around just trying to figure out what is actually happening. But what's the reception been like so far?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you ask. One of the first people that I talked to about this whole cannabis experience was, he kind of reminded me, he's like, listen, man, most of the people you're going to be dealing with, not recommenders, but most of the other people are people that were either still on the dark side or came out of the dark side.
Yes.
And he said, you got to be cognizant of that. And, and I am, so you got to kind of crawl before you walk. And I don't want to get all your trust right up front. I want to earn that. And so that's been a big part of it. And the other part is what we struggled with is that recommenders or people that are thinking about being a recommender, it's still taboo. I mean, even though the bill's been written into law here, one person described it as like, you have a side door for these physicians to enter and exit in, because that's the stigma still today. And then the last part is, it's great you're putting on this summit, but when am I going to get medicine? Yes. When am I going to be able to help patients? And unfortunately, that's not me. All I can do is educate them. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve. Because next year when a product is available, it's too late to ask questions at that point.
Yeah, and I think that you hit a good. They hit a good. Actually, no. I circle to another question. We've actually seen a lot of events try to come through the city. Were you nervous about trying to put this on, being that we have had events, people try to come out from different states, saying, trying to do the exact same thing or something similar. How nervous were you to put on an event like this? And looking even a couple of months ago, how did an event like seeing the Southeastern Hemp and Medical Conference and seeing that be, the success that it was on the level it was, kind of help out and give you optimism about where you're about to go with this?
It was good to see you. I was there. I saw you there. I'm going to a hemp conference this weekend where I live. So it's a difference. It's a different space. I think the first, maybe for people that are, again, like me, initially, getting involved in hemp and seeing the power of CBD is phenomenal. And so that's kind of the gateway into the medical cannabis side. I think for us, primarily, originally the goal was to help educate the physicians, but I think that's grown into patients and education as well. And because again, there's so many questions that people don't know, and people are in this space. I tell them, it's like, we don't know what we don't know. Yes. I mean, I know that sounds strange, but you go online, sometimes you'll see, I've seen 17 cannabinoids, I've seen 130 cannabinoids, I've seen 147 cannabinoids. People don't even know what all is in there, but what they do know is that this should be used as a first line of therapy It's all natural. And so instead of a pharmaceutical product that's created that really treats one condition but has maybe 5 side effects, you got an all natural plant that can treat dozens. Let's just we'll minimize dozens of conditions. So that's the exciting part about what we're doing.
Okay. Dang, you hit so many you hit so many topics for me already, man.
Passion.
Yeah, it is.
Passion.
It's passion. It's like I hope I have that type of passion when I'm speaking. I'm actually very nervous about doing this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, again, I do a show. Yeah, listen to us. I do a show. I clearly speak in front of people all the time. But whenever I think about doing an event on a magnitude like this, and I say a magnitude meaning you're speaking in front of people who are for the most part kind of curious.
Yep.
And what you don't want to do is lead them down a wrong path. You don't want to sell them a wolf ticket or anything like that. I get nervous about stuff like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
I do too. If that makes you feel any better, I'm nervous about doing this right now. My CEO said, "Don't screw it up." Wisely. Don't screw it up.
But what I do like about the event and the thing that I admired was I feel like it actually leans towards people who want to know and aren't afraid to ask. There is leaning towards curious people. Like I feel like Cash Color Cannabis is a perfect platform for people who are curious. We meet you at a level that you're at.
Yep.
And I feel like you're giving people enough space to where you're meeting them where they're at. Like you are speaking to doctors, but you're also speaking to patients. You're speaking to people who want to know what's going on versus people who are already experts. And I think that we do run into that issue a lot in cannabis, where you can't speak to people from a perspective of something that you've known about for years.
Yeah.
We touched about Stanley. When Stanley speaks to people, and I've watched him do this, you don't speak to somebody almost like you're a professor and you're talking down to them. You talk to them from a perspective of where they're at. You try to meet them where they're at. And we have to kind of get away from that. Like everybody doesn't know cannabinoids. Everybody doesn't know what a terpene is. Yep. So for you to start up there is so elitist. Like help me get to this point and then I'll get there, trust me.
It's almost like Baptist church.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of church you go to. I mean, sometimes the pastor can talk way above your head.
What?
And that's that deters a lot of people from going back to church. It's like, I don't even understand what he's saying. I got to get the fundamentals, the basics before I even get involved in that.
And it sends people back to the streets, and I think that again, events like this come into the city is a huge help because we have a lot of people who are curious. We have a lot of people who are moving from black market into attempting to try to move into the light.
Yep.
So they need these type of things before you just jump out and start doing something and next thing you know you're in jail or you're on your face.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, those things are needed. So what's the evolution of Releaf Summit? Like where are we going to see the event evolve? I know you spoke about trying to make it, I guess, a thing that goes past Georgia, maybe do it in other states. Is that something that's?
I mean, it is, but I think right now we're focused on Georgia. I mean, solely. I think because of Georgia's unique location, its access, it could be a great spot to have it, forever in Atlanta, Georgia, and bring people in here. Very similar to like what you've got in Denver and Oakland.
And I was going to say, and I hope so. That we could have something like this be almost like a signature event for us.
Yeah, I mean, the Atlanta or Georgia. I mean, it is pro cannabis. I mean, it always has been, and so why not do it in Georgia? The opportunities there. And again, with the access from flights, from drive time, I think within like a 250-mile radius, you've got tens of millions of people. Charlotte, a lot of Florida, and Florida right now is coming on strong for cannabis.
Ooh, I feel like Florida's putting pressure on Georgia.
Yep.
Like eventually, Georgia's gonna have to do something. You can't have Florida out here with whole flower plants, and y'all have dispensaries, and Georgia's sitting here still twiddling their thumbs about whether or not we want to have this. We want to protect bathrooms or anything.
Yep.
We have a ridiculous conversation.
Yep. Your low-level THC oil. I mean, I think 5% is a great start. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need way more than 5%.
Way more, man. But again, it's a start, and I'm not going to argue because the other start could have been nothing.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to really argue that with people. So as you've been going through your journey in cannabis, and as you've been learning about things, you mentioned that you learned what the difference in a sativa and indicas. Mm-hmm. Have you had a chance to learn it personally? Have you had a chance to actually experience the plant?
I have. Yep.
Oh.
I had tried it before, a handful of times. I think, again, bringing to what we do now in Releaf Genetics, and we kind of mentioned this before, and it's going to be our launch point, to see what, and you mentioned terpene profiles. A lot of people don't know terpene profiles, and be honest with you, terpene profiles are almost as important as the cannabinoids themselves.
Hell yeah, man! You talk about from everything from flavors to aromas to like you're talking real stuff that you're dealing with.
Yep. So that was a learning curve for me, and so for like the tests that we do, to tell you individually, like we metabolize things differently, but to tell you based off your genetic makeup, which terpene profiles are going to work better for you.
Yeah.
You know, and think of it like, you know, not disease states, but ailments, you know, stress, anxiety, you know, eating, things like that. You can go in, it'll tell you the ratios that you need to take. It'll tell you the top 2 terpene profiles. I mean, it's amazing. So in theory, and I just learned this a couple days ago, in theory, as a patient, whether seen or recommended or not, you could have CBD oils with terpene profiles, like different ones throughout the day. I mean, in theory, that's ultimately what you go for. Like if you want one to sleep, you only want to take that at night. But if you want one for anxiety because you've got a podcast you're going to be doing, you could take this one. So I think that was part of my, you know, the learning and my experience, you know, and I relate, for me, my experience with cannabis very similar to like a lot of people with tequila. You know, like, you know, you get a bottle of it first time you're 17, 18, at least that was mine. You just drink it shot after shot. You throw up. Like now, I still don't like the smell of tequila. Really? Cannabis, my first time of like doing it in the last 5 years was doing a dab. I didn't know. I mean, this guy was like, hey, let's do that. I can't see what's going on. I got a little rig down below, and he's like, keep on breathing. I'm like, and I got to the point where I could not breathe in anymore.
I was about to say, yeah, your first chip was a dab.
I blew it out, and they were like, oh, she's going to be so messed up. And I was. I felt like a Tom and Jerry with my body. You know, I like floated out of my body. That wasn't fun. And so that's why I think it goes back to experience and education and helping patients and people like understand how it works within their body. Yeah. And dabs, for me, was not the right thing. Yeah. I mean, it was not first. You know, if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, you know, talking about another podcast, he said, you know, tells people if you've never smoked, take a couple of hits the first time. That's it. You don't have to smoke a whole joint. I mean, you're passing this around. So I think it's education is the biggest thing, and that was my experience.
Well, I'm glad, man. You've actually you've given me more energy when it comes to the event. I'm really ready to go out there and speak about it more. I need people to make sure that they are there and support this, because this can be a signature thing for this city and this state, and that's needed. You know, because one thing we don't need is people coming in and taking advantage of something that's brand new as far as Georgia. Yep. You know, we need to make sure that we establish that we have events like this. We have outlets like Cash Color Cannabis. We have vocal people like Stanley and like Alexis Harris and like Coach Harris and people like that. So definitely applauding you and what you're doing with the event. If people wanted to get tickets right now, if they wanted to get themselves involved, be a sponsor, be a vendor in any way, shape, or form, how could they get involved with the event? Like start with tickets and then move into how somebody could actually be a sponsor or a vendor.
Sure. If you go to the website, Releaf, spelled R-E-L as in Larry, E-A-F, con, short for conference.com, that'll take you, you can go in and be a vendor, you can be an exhibitor. You can purchase tickets. You know what I would say for your listeners, I mean, nobody knows this. So that night when Eva's launch party is going to be going on, I don't know what you want to do in Atlanta, but for $75 for a ticket to go in that night with a 4-hour open bar of premium alcohol, you probably cannot get a better deal in Atlanta. I would say that.
Yeah, especially in Midtown.
Yep.
I'll tell you right now, if you are in Midtown around where the W is, yeah, there's probably not going to be a better option.
Nope.
Especially open
not
bar.
for $75.
No,
not a good deal. But you know,
and you get to bump into me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you getting the word out for us as well. And you know, again, we're trying to hit this from you know, top down, bottom up, and make sure we've got everybody involved. And you know, to your point, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to come from out of state and try to take advantage of you know, the opportunity. You know, and you know, luckily in the state of Georgia, out of most of the other states that I've seen, you do have a good network of people here already that are working to keep things within the state. You know, which is great to see. But, you know.
It's amazing because, you know, that's one thing I do love about Atlanta. Growing up in Boston, you know, Boston has a really strong sense of loyalty. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, if you go to the city, yeah, we just really love our city. Atlanta's the same way. Like, Atlanta loves Atlanta, Georgia loves Georgia, and what they want to do is keep Atlanta, and keep Georgia. So there's going to be as much local business here as possible before you ever see a national business try to come and just set a blueprint down here, set their footprints in the ground.
But look in the news, look in the newspaper and see who was paying lobbyists to get these licenses. I mean, most of those people are not
From here.
From in-state.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's happening.
That's a whole nother crooked situation, though, man. Because, again, if we're dealing in a state that's a referendum state, we can't personally vote on it. You need these certain groups of people to decide this for us. That screams corruption.
Yep.
You know, that screams like, yeah, I got my hand out.
Yeah, but there, you know, again, we talked earlier before we went on air. You know, there's still a lot of opportunities. If you don't have $11-15 million to open up a 50,000 square foot indoor grow, somebody's got to have seeds.
Yes, man. Somebody got to protect it.
That's a basic. You know, somebody's got to have fertilizer. Somebody's got to have all these things. So it's all an opportunity, and it's still on Georgia soil. So I mean, nobody knows the soil more than a Georgian.
Hey, man. Well, for those who are kind of curious and ready to learn more about the cannabis industry, learn how they could actually get themselves involved, or just learn how the plant could help them medically and physically, I want you to go ahead and hit the link in my bio. Make sure that you are following Cash Color Cannabis first on Instagram, but hit the link on our bio, and I want you to use the promo code MEHKA, MEHKA, capital letters all across the board, and go ahead and get your tickets right now. The Releaf Summit is going to be an amazing event. It's going to be at an amazing location in the W in Midtown. There's going to be some great speakers, and like you said, for $75, I definitely want to drink with Eva Marcel, get into this new brand that she has, and kick it with 4 hours. You know, see how long I can drink before I pass out.
There you go. There you go. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Appreciate you for coming by, and I do appreciate that again. Make sure that you follow Releaf Summit. Make sure that you go ahead and hit the link in my bio and grab the tickets if you get a chance right now. But make sure you get them before September 28th, so you're not trying to walk into a hotel and
dress to impress, by the way.
Oh, you know, that's my thing, man. Dress competitively.
Yep.
Dress competitively. Do not show up in shorts.
That's right.
Thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, buddy.
No problem. That's Cash Color Cannabis, a higher level of conversation on LivehiphopDaily.tv. All right, so next we'll be